Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I hope you are having a fantastic day so far. It is Friday at last and it looks like we're going to have a nice quiet weekend. What are you guys up to this weekend? Let me know down in the comments. Garen is not meant to have a hockey game this weekend. He might be playing for the older boys tomorrow, which is a home game, so it shouldn't take up too much of our day, which is awesome. I mean, I love watching him play hockey and that, but sometimes the driving and that gets a bit much. Anyway, today we are reacting to 7 things America does really well. Now, I could probably think of a few more than 7, but I'm going to take it from someone who's moved there and hear what he has to say. But before we get into today's video, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you're feeling extra frisky on this Frisky Friday, you may as well give the video a like as well. I do have a Buy Me a Coffee page and a Patreon page linked down in the description if you want to help support the channel. That'll be freaking awesome. And without further ado, let's check out 7 things America does really well.
Like you're living the dream while also escaping the feds.
What? What a way to
Hello,
start a
I'm
video.
Lawrence. I'm from Britain and I live in the United States, and anybody that's seen my channel before will know that I absolutely love living here. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, I do have feelings about the things that America doesn't do quite so well, just as I'm aware of Britain's shortcomings. But, you know, I'm an optimist, and amid all of the criticisms that might be thrown at America, I often think it's important to remind myself of the things that America does well. You know, I think amid the pandemic of the last 2 years and this sort of political division that's engulfed the country, it can be easy for us to lose sight of those details, those things that have made my stay in the United States an enjoyable one. So I'm going to outline some of them right here, right now, so that you can share this video from now until the end of time. Here are 7 things that the United States of America does really well. Yes, it's a little bit of a cliche because, you know, everybody loves pizza. Even back in Britain, we like pizza, just not as much as we do in America. You know, I lived in Britain for 26 years. I've lived in America for 14, and I've probably had 100 times more pizzas since moving here. And on the whole, America does them really well. I'm sure the Italians won't thank me for saying that. And I'll caveat that by saying I do also love Italian pizza. I just love pizza in general. That's sort of a rule, isn't it? But America has many different styles. And of course, I live in Chicago, so I am living in the place where one of its most famous pizzas was born.
Deep dish.
And if I'm in the mood and I haven't eaten in 3 days, a Chicago deep dish.
Pizza crusts, thin or deep dish? I gotta have a thin crust. I don't know, the deep dish is not for me. I apologize if that offends anyone. Let me know down in the comments what you think.
Pizza is amazing. But, and this is the reason that I don't go out onto the streets of Chicago anymore, I actually prefer the Detroit style. I know, because the thing is with Detroit style, it's like Hufflepuff. You know, everybody thinks they're either Gryffindor or Slytherin, but I'm a contrarian by nature, so I always like to go for the third option. For me, it's not New York style or Chicago, it's Detroit. I promise that not all of my answers are about food, but I felt like I had to include this one. Not many things beat the feeling of waking up on a Sunday morning and making that decision to go to your local diner and have breakfast. For me, there's just a significant amount of warmth that comes with an American diner. You know, it's the early morning chatter, it's the pour of the coffee, it's the omelettes and the hash browns, it's the seating booth, it's all of it. I mean, it just makes up for such a great atmosphere. And, you know, we do have, of course, cafeterias and things like that. But
in the UK, where we lived in a town called St Albans, which is in Hertfordshire, but we used to go down to like Devon and Torquay and Cornwall and that quite often, as much as we could, to go to the beach. And there was an awesome, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, there was an awesome American style diner on the back way. We used to go the back way rather than the motorway, and we stopped there every time. It was freaking awesome. The kids loved it, I loved it. It was so like proper old style. They had a pink Cadillac there, they had like, it was awesome. I really loved it. I wish there was something like that here in Slovakia.
Such a great atmosphere. And you know, we do have, of course, cafeterias and things like that back in Britain, but we don't really have anything that's precisely the same as an American diner, which is sort of a shame because they also remind me of adventure, right? I always think of 2 film characters meeting in secret to plot the overthrow of the villain who's come to annihilate the city. I mean, that's why I go to diners. Streets. This might seem like a weird answer, especially since, of course, we have streets in Britain. And to some extent, I miss the streets in Britain. You know, there's character to the winding nature of them, and you can very much get lost just looking for the post office. Here, it feels like you're less likely to do that, and the orderly side of my brain appreciates that. Streets, firstly, of course, are laid out usually in blocks, so you have kind of rectangular streets. This is very much in line with my
I've never got that. Sorry, like if you hear, a lot of the time it's in New York or something, like one of the like Law and Order or one of those shows, for example, where they'll be like 5 blocks away. What is a block? I need to actually look that up because I've never understood it. And then in the street, like 61st and 3rd. Like, what the hell does that mean? That's something I've never really understood. I need to have a look at that.
Observations of America's fascination with rectangles. But it's not just that, right? It's the things that are on the street. Those fire hydrants that you see in the movies, it turns out they're real. And the house numbers seem to go on forever. It almost seemed peculiar back in Britain if the house number went into 4 digits. I don't know that I've had an American address that's had fewer than 3. Are there any Americans that live at, number 4 Washington Street?
That's a good point, actually.
As well. They're all named after presidents or places in America or types of tree. And I just love that continuity. I love saying things like, I'll meet you on the corner of Maplewood and Jefferson in 5. And there are always people walking their dogs on these streets, and they're usually super polite, and they'll look you in the eye and say, good morning, it's afternoon. I really couldn't have made this list without including entertainment. I mean, obviously that's quite a broad term, but I think in general terms, very few countries do entertainment like the United States. Firstly, I mean, America produces so much entertainment. You could be talking about music, television, film, and in each of those, there's just such a vast array of output. Now, don't get me wrong, some of it's crap. But when they get it right, which historically has been often, you end up with The Wizard of Oz, you end up with Star Wars, you end up with the Marvel franchise, Quantum Leap. I could go on, wrestling. I thought about including this under entertainment, but it seems as though theme parks deserve their own entry. That was a pun on entering a theme park. Now, over the years, Britain has had its fair share of theme parks, from Alton Towers to Flamingo Land to the M25, but America just has more of them. And of course, I think everybody knows about Disneyland and Disney World and Universal Studios and all of that. But after moving here,
I did a video on theme parks, and a few of you got down my throat because I said I'd probably avoid them because of the kid. Like, I don't like them. And you're like, but you can't take that away from the kids. So we were sitting down the other day and we were like, if we were to go, would you like to go to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever the hell it's called in those theme parks? And both my kids were like, nah, not interested. They'd rather go on a hike or fishing. Like, Garen is so keen to go bass fishing. He cannot wait to go bass fishing. And I think that's what would have been on my list if I was to make a list like this. The thing you guys do in America really well, I think, is outdoors. You can hunt, you can fish, and you can camp, and there's not so many restrictions. Whereas here, oh my God, there's so many restrictions. We're still trying to figure out how to get our fishing license, which is an absolute nightmare because it's now going into winter. Yes, we can still fish in winter. It's just not as enjoyable when you're standing there freezing your nuts off. But I'll still do it, I promise you, if I get my license. But yeah, that's one thing I think I would have added to the list.
I realised, much to my intense happiness, that theme parks aren't just reserved for Florida and California, but can actually be found in many states. I think the first one I went to was Kings Island, just outside of Cincinnati. And I also went to Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana, and yes, that's a real place. And the strange thing is I didn't go on many of the roller coasters because I have this overwhelming feeling that we're going to crash. So you might be thinking, what do you even get out of theme parks? And to me, it's the atmosphere. It's the balloons, it's the movie scores that play throughout the entire place. It's the hot summer days, it's the interns dressed in a Yogi Bear costume. Come to think of it, that must be hell in July. But for the rest of us, it's great to meet Yogi and friends. People who watch this channel regularly know that I absolutely love parks, partly for the opposite reason that I love theme parks, which now that I've said that out loud, I've just realised that theme parks are themselves parks. Anyway, the point is, it's the relative absence of people that makes them so enjoyable. This was even the case for me when I lived in Britain, where we have a boatload of parks, some of which have boats. But just like with theme parks, America has way more of them. And some of them are absolutely massive. There's one in Alaska that is larger than Northern Ireland and Wales combined. In fact, back in the day, I did a video about US national parks that absolutely dwarf their UK equivalents. I'll link to that at the end of this video. And there's sort of a hierarchy of parks here as well. You've got the sort of local municipal parks, you've got state parks, you've got national parks. Spoil for choice because the United States is made up of a very diverse terrain. So you've got the hot springs at Yellowstone National Park, you've got the tree-laden mountains of Great Smoky Mountains National Park, you've got the Grand Canyon, and just 100 million other places. That is an exaggeration, but there's a lot of them.
We used to have a little park down the road from us in England, and sometimes that's all you need because we didn't have a very big garden there, and I'd go sit there for a couple hours, feed the ducks, just chill, and just think of nothing. No phone, nothing. Just that's what a park is awesome for, isn't it? I do sort of miss that. We don't have any parks local to us, but we have got a big lake I can go to.
And of course, you could fly to these places, although not directly. You'd have to go to an airport. But really, let's be honest, does that beat a good old American road trip? I don't
I
think
really
so.
want to
I
do a
love the
road
open
trip.
road in the US, and some of that comes from the movies. Again, it's just like with the diner. It feels
And I
like
want to
you're
get
living
that
the
silence
dream while
behind them.
also
Both of
escaping the
them.
feds. And you just stick on Billy Joel or something cool, you wind down the window and you just hit the gas, man. Not the gas man. You hit the gas, comma, man. It's amazing. And that open road, of course, really is open and long, with some highways spanning the entire country. And you see things on these journeys that you don't see from the air, and you certainly wouldn't see in Britain, like quirky roadside attractions, especially when you're on a historic route, or the terrain that I just spoke about. And taking road trips in Britain was never quite the same thing, because firstly, the country is nowhere near as big, and secondly, in the UK, you can get to most towns and cities by train, which is equally adventurous, but you can't really do that for the most part in America because there isn't high-speed rail. That's an example of something it doesn't do too well, so I've learned to embrace one of the things that it does, and that's road trips. That is it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below some of the things that you think.
Yep, a road trip is definitely something I'd love to do. I'd love to go, like, I've mentioned it a few times. When we come over, I'd like to get an RV or a big camper van or something and just cruise for 2 months if we could if we could afford it. I'd love to do it for 2-3 months. I mean, homeschool the kids for a few months, it's fine. I mean, if they can close the school for nearly 2 years during lockdown, and when this whole COVID thing happened, they can let us have a few months off, can't they? Because here in Slovakia, you need to get permission and all sorts of things, same as the UK really. So yeah, that's something I'd love to do. But yeah, like I said, I would have added the fishing and the outdoors, the hunting and that sort of thing as well. And family, it seems like you guys have got from what I've seen, now I've never been there, but from what I've seen, like family, not in the sense of your blood relatives, but like community is like a family, isn't it? That's what I've seen a lot, and that's what a lot of you have told me in the emails and stuff, that it's very close knit in a lot of places, which is something I would really like. Anyway, guys, have an amazing weekend. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.